Hello friends, today I am going to describe a program on the arrays, one-dimensional arrays rather, that is the sorting of an array in terms of ascending order. In an ascending order, I am going to sort the number of elements which are being given as an input to an array. So that's a quite interesting program. There are many methods of sorting. There are many sorting techniques, but we will go on to those further techniques later on in our stages. But now today I am going to describe a simple sorting technique in which we are going to arrange the numbers in an ascending order in a one-dimensional array. So let us get started with writing the program. First, let me write the question of the program, that is, write a program in C to sort an array. So what is sorting? Sorting means if you have some numbers arranged in a disorderly fashion, then the numbers are going to be sorted in a fashion so that the lowest number appears at the beginning and the higher one, the next higher one, next to that, and so on and so forth when we are going to arrange the elements in the ascending order. But in the case of descending order, the process is just the reverse, and we are going to show the ascending order sorting, and from that you will get to easily know that that the descending order sorting is done in what way. So first let me just take one array containing some elements to show the method of sorting to you. Suppose this is an array containing about 3 elements. So let us take this element in this way: 5, 2, 0. So we are taking these elements in this order. So this is an array which is sorted, but in the descending order. We want to sort it in the ascending order so that the lowest element comes at the beginning and the next higher one next to that, and so on. So our output will be something like this: 0, 2, 5. So the output will be something like this one: 0, 2, 5, so that the lowest element comes to the leftmost side and the next higher to next to that, and so on and so forth. So the output expected is like this. So we are going to write a program in C in order to show you the sorting technique in which we can do this sort of sorting. If any elements are arranged in a disorderly fashion, we can arrange them in this fashion. So let us get started with writing the program, and let me explain you after that. So let me get started with the program. So we will start from the file inclusion directive #include stdio.h int main. And how many variables are we going to take? We are going to take, say, suppose the user wants to enter how many variables he or she wants to enter. So for that we are going to take a variable n. For 2 loop variables are needed, so we need I and j for that, and we are going to take an array. Obviously we are going to take an array and one temporary variable so that we can do some sort of alternating or swapping of elements. So let us take those elements and get started with writing the program. So int a 20. So this is an array, one-dimensional array declaration, nothing to initialize over here because we will take the input from the user end. N, I, j, and the temporary variable temp. So these are the required variables for this program. Then we will take the input n from the user, that how many elements he or she wants to enter. So let me write this: printf how many elements scanf %d ampersand n. So, user gives the input over here, and now we are going to take the input elements of the array. The elements will be also, the number of elements is entered by the user, and the elements, suppose there are 5 elements to be inserted by the user, that is the value of n is 5, then the user is going to enter 5 elements one by one. So, for that we have to take a for loop. Before that, I am going to give a message like this: printf enter the elements, new line, for I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. This is the initialization part, this is the condition checking part, and this is the modification part, which is an increment in this case. So, in this case, we are going to take some input from the user. So, scanf %d ampersand a, and what is the subscript? I. So, when I is equal to 0, then A0 will be entered by the user. Whatever the user enters will go to the A0 position of the array, like this. Suppose this is the array, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, A0, what is A0? A0 is something which will be stored over here, suppose here. And when the I becomes 1 after the increment, then the A1 element will be stored over here, and so on. So, in this way, we are going to put some values or keep some values within this array, which can be in any order, which can be in a disorderly fashion, which can be in an orderly fashion as well, which can be in a descending order as well. So, if in any case we are going to perform the sorting so as to arrange the elements in an ascending order. So, how to do that? So, let us get started with the main logic of the program. This is the initial part of the program, and let me just rub off this bit so that I can just get some space, get enough space for me to write the program in order to make you understand. So, excuse me for erasing this part, and I am just going to erase this part, keeping the variable declarations as it is, and after that I am rubbing a portion of the code, and I am now writing the code which is to be written in order to do the sorting. So, I am going to write that. Suppose we are going to take a for loop starting from I0, I is equal to 0 rather, I will be less than n minus 1 and I plus plus. So, this is what I is equal to 0 semicolon I less than n minus 1 semicolon I plus plus, and after that we come to the inner loop, which will have the loop variable as j. So, we come to this inner loop now by writing this in an indented fashion. For j is equal to I plus 1, for j is equal to I plus 1 and j less than n, j plus plus. So, this is j is equal to I plus 1 and j less than n, j plus plus. Now, we are going to take the value of, we are going to compare some elements, that is, just take a sample value so as to make you understand. Suppose we have the element like this 5, 1, 2. So, we are going to compare first between this 5 and 1, this 5 and 1. So, this 5 and 1, see, suppose 1 is less than 5, so 1 will come before 5 and 5 will come after that. Then after that, it will become 1, 5, 2, and then again we will do this comparison for the next pair, that is 5 and 2, and again 2 becomes, the 2 comes to the 4 and 5 gets behind that. So, in this way we are going to compare the elements, and if one element on the left hand side is less than that on the right hand side, then we are going to swap the positions of the elements so as to keep the lower number on the left hand side. So, now let us write the code within this inner for loop. I am giving a brace. We will come over here and see and check if aj is less than. J means something which is one place ahead of I. So, j comes on the right side, I on the left side. So, if aj is less than ai, if aj is less than ai, that means this sort of situation occurs. That is, this one is small and this one is large on the left hand side. So, we need to swap in that case, otherwise we need not do the swapping. So, if aj is less than ai, we are going to swap the elements like this. We are taking the help of this temp variable, which is the 3 variable swap. We can do it do a 2 variable swap as well, but I am doing it in the simple way. Temp is equal to ai is equal to aj, and aj is equal to temp. In this manner, we are swapping the elements so that the one which is smaller comes at the beginning and the greater one comes after that. So, this is the sorting technique, and in this way the sorting of the elements takes place. We close the if brace, if block, and then the inner loop and then the outer loop. So, this is the technique in which we can sort the elements, and now we are going to print the array which is in the sorted fashion. So, for that I need to again rub off a bit of the code in order to cater for more space to write the code. So, let me just rub a bit, keeping this portion. Now, we are going to write like this: printf the sorted array is new line for I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, printf %d a %d, let me give a tab so that it appears in a good way, \t, which is the escape sequence to keep a space between the numbers when I am going to print the sorted array, %d \t, what I am going to print ai, and all the i's are now sorted, all the ai's are sorted rather, and this takes us to the end of the program, after which we are going to write this return 0 and end the main section by this closing brace. So, this is the program, and now we are going to put some sample values and take a small array like this, a 3 element array, in order to show you how this entire operation is taking place in the background. So, let us get started with the dry run of the program. So, let us start the dry run by putting some sample values in the array. So, in order to make it a short process, we are taking n to be 3, and suppose the user enters 3 values, that is 0, 1, 2 position. This becomes this 5, 1 and 2. These are entered by the user. So, now let us see. The first we will take I is equal to 0. We have to check the I whether it is less than n minus 1, that is n is equal to 3. So, 2 definitely correct. Then we come inside the outer loop and get to see whether we can enter the inner loop. J becomes I plus 1, that is 1, less than 3, yes, less than 3. Now, we will check this if aj is less than ai. What is aj? aj is 1, ai means a0. So, a1 is 1 and a0 is 0, a0 is 5 rather. So, this 1 is definitely less than 5. We are going to change this. We are going to swap the positions of 1 and 5 by this 3 variable swap method. So, let me just show you once. ai, what is ai? ai means a1, ai means a0, a0 is 5. Now, a0 becomes AI becomes AJ, A0 becomes A1, that is A1 means 1. So 1 is overwriting the 5. So this 5 gets overwritten by 1, so the element becomes 1, 1, 2. And 5 has gone away, but the 5 is definitely stored in temp in order to restore the value of 5. Now AJ means A1 is equal to temp means 5. So see, in this way A0 becomes 1 and A1 becomes 5. The array looks like this: 1, 5, 2. So this is the updated position of the array after the first iteration of the inner loop. Now we are going to change the value of j. We are going to increment the value of j by unity, that is j becomes 2 less than 3, perfect. And now we are going to again see whether this aj is less than ai. So aj means a2 less than ai means a0 I has not changed. What is 0, 1, 2? Now we have to see this array, forget this one. Now a0 is 5, no, so a0 is not 5, a0 is 1. A0 is 1 and A2 is 2. 2 is not less than 1. So we will not do the swapping. So swapping takes place only if this condition holds, that if AJ is less than AI. So AJ is not less than AI, the swapping will not take place. So this array will remain the same. So array has not changed, the array remains the same. So I am not drawing the array again in order to save some space. So now the j is incremented to 3, which is not less than 3, condition is not satisfied. We come out of the inner loop and go to increase the I value by unity, so that the I becomes 1, which is to be checked against n minus 1, and n minus 1 is 2, which is correct. And now we try to enter the intersection of the outer loop and try to see whether we can enter the inner loop. So j is equal to I plus 1, j will become 2, that is to be checked against n is 3, yes, that is correct. And we will enter the j loop again and perform this comparison. If aj is less than ai, aj means a2 less than ai means I is now 1, a1. So what is that? A2 is 2 and a1 is 5. So 2 is definitely less than 5, condition is satisfied. Now the swapping takes place and this 2 and 5 gets interchanged in terms of their positions. So the array now becomes, how the swapping takes place I have shown you over here. You can refer to this 3 variable swap technique and just try to understand this swapping from this calculation, from this dry run portion. So now 0, 1, 2, so 1 remains where it was and this 5 and 2 gets swapped, 2 comes over here, 5 goes here. Now we will increment j once again, j becomes 3, which is not less than 3, we come out of the j loop, try to increase the value of I by 1, I becomes 2. So 2 is not less than n minus 1, that is 2. So this condition also does not hold. So we come out of the outer loop as well. So now we come out of the outer loop and go to this line, printf the sorted array is, and then print whatever is in the array now. I is equal to 0 to less than n I plus plus, we are going to print the array elements one by one, and so that this array, the last position which we have attained after the iteration was completely over, we attained the array in this way. We have seen that the array becomes like this. So this is the last updated position and this array is to be printed. The array elements will be printed one by one from this array. And now the array prints values of what? 1, tab 2 and then tab 5. So this is the output, which is obviously the desired output, because our desired output was definitely 1, 2, 5, because we are doing it in the ascending way. Ascending order means lowest one comes toward to the leftmost position, the next hire goes to the next position to that, and so on and so forth. So our our output is quite similar, rather the exactly to same as the expected output. So our operation has been done. So this takes us to the end of the dry run. So if you have any problems or any queries or comments in regard to this program, you can well post your comments in the comment section so that I can address your queries.